What's up friends? Today we're diving into the world of medium format, large format photography with the new Fuji GFX 100 II. And I've had this camera in for a couple weeks now and it's awesome. It does kind of remind me of the GFX 100S, but this has way better autofocus. And I'm sure most of you watching this video probably won't be buying this camera anyway because it's dang expensive. But I'm gonna make a video on it because I think it's worth talking about because it is really good. And I kind of want to shoot the rest of this talking head with this camera because this camera can shoot 8K video, 10-bit 422, and we can take a look at how the eye autofocus and stuff is working. So let's switch over to this camera. All right, so we're recording on the GFX 100 II right now, so you can see what this looks like with the face detection. Let's talk about the design because Fuji nailed the design of this camera. It's a robust, weather-sealed, incredibly well-built camera. It's a magnesium alloy construction and it's a professional camera. So you know you're holding something special and something legit when you pick this camera up. It's actually smaller than the GFX 100, which had a battery grip built into it. And I'm kind of surprised they went to a smaller design with this camera, but it does maintain that removable EVF, which is really cool, like the original GFX 100. And it still has that always on sub-dial on the display on the top right, which shows all your camera settings, even when the camera's turned off. Above that, there's 3 new custom buttons, which I've got set for face detection and subject detection. And on the left, you've got your mode dial as well as your toggle switch to go between photo and video. It's rocking a CF Express B card slot as well as a UHS 2 card slot. The I/O is really simple. It's basically just Ethernet, 3.5mm mic jack, a full-size HDMI, and USB-C. Of course, it has an awesome 3.2-inch tilting touchscreen, which does that 45-degree angle tilt as well. Now, this is a touchscreen, but only for focus and certain things, not in the menus. And as I mentioned, it had that removable EVF, which is 9.4 million dots. It's an awesome large EVF. Kind of wish this was in all of Fuji's cameras. Now, let's discuss the heart of this beast. This is a newly designed 102 megapixel sensor. Medium format, large format. I don't want to call it medium format because the haters will say it's not true medium format, but the image quality is nothing short of spectacular. The dynamic range is impressive. The level of detail you can get is jaw-dropping, and whether you're shooting landscapes, portraits, commercial work, the GFX 100 II is going to be incredible. It's something you kind of have to experience. It's hard to describe, especially in a YouTube video, but you can shoot 16-bit raw, uncompressed images. It's got dynamic range for days. Low light performance is pretty good too, as you can imagine from a large format sensor. And on Christmas Day, I actually went out and shot at night because it was really foggy and I thought it would look really sick around the city. I was shooting at 3200 ISO, 6400 ISO. And although some of these images have noise, the noise is kind of a nice tight film grain because it has so many megapixels. And if you do some denoising on it, you're not really gonna lose too much detail. This camera is also rocking Fuji's 5th gen processor, so it's the X Processor 5, and this helps in a few areas when it comes to like autofocus and readout speed. This camera can actually shoot 8 frames per second raw in JPEG, which might not sound that impressive compared to some fast cameras out there, but for a sensor this big, at 102 megapixels, that's kind of a significant jump, especially coming from the old GFX 100, which could only do 5 frames per second. And Fuji's made some significant strides in the autofocus department with this camera, at least when it comes to photo. Video autofocus is still hit or miss. I mean, we're trying it here. We'll see how it looks. Now, the last review video I made on a Fuji GFX camera was last year on the 50S Mark II, and that camera was so slow because it's still using contrast-based autofocus. So coming from that, this camera is way faster, and I think it's even way faster than the GFX 100, the original. And I still think your experience is gonna vary depending on the lenses you're using, and that's kind of common with all Fuji cameras. But I found it to be really good with eye detection and continuous autofocus in the studio. It was noticeably faster, more accurate than what I can remember from the older GFX 100 or even the newer GFX 100S, especially when it comes to tracking subjects. Did a great job in low light conditions. It's a lot smoother. I didn't notice much hunting, and I think that's just because of the new processor. They've also included all the new subject detection modes as well, like all of Fuji's newer cameras. So you've got animal, car, plane, train, you know, all the objects are going to be tracking. Of course, it has the newest film simulations as well as one brand new one called Reala Ace. And I can't say I'd use it very often, but I'll show a couple images here that I shot with it. And that brings the total film simulations to Fuji now up to 20. And the look of this film simulation is somewhere between classic chrome and Provia, so it's sort of a standard picture profile you could kind of use for anything. But I didn't really feel that it has much of a vibe. So in terms of like nostalgic negative or classic chrome, it's kind of more just a standard picture look. So let's get into video because if you want to shoot that medium format, large format look, the GFX 102 is not going to disappoint. It shoots 8K video up to 30 frames per second, 10-bit 422 internally, which is what I'm shooting at right now. Well, I'm shooting at 24 frames per second, but you get the idea. You can shoot high bit rates up to 720 megabits per second, and I didn't have any issues recording this to a V90 SD card. Now, if you want to shoot internal ProRes HQ 422 or LT, you'll need a CF Express card in this camera because it won't let you record unless you use that. It also has F-Log and F-Log2, which provides a little bit more flexibility in post. You're going to get a little bit more dynamic range out of F-Log2. I'm currently only shooting an F-Log1 because it's less noise and I feel like it's going to grade fine in this type of lighting. And of course you can shoot 4K 60p, 10-bit 422, and slow motion 120 frames per second at 1080p. And I also noticed in the menu they have an option for shooting with anamorphic 35mm lenses now, so if you have an adapter for just full frame lenses, you can do that. Now I didn't shoot a ton of video with this camera, but I did notice that the IBIS was pretty solid. It still has a little bit of a robotic look to it, but it's now 8 stops up from 5 stops from the original GFX, which is pretty impressive for a sensor this big. Now I know one concern with these high resolution cameras is often the battery life. And the GFX 102 is rocking a single NPW235 battery, the same one found in the XH2, the XT5, the GFX 100S, you get it. So it's not going to be as good as the original GFX, which had the big battery grip on it, but this does allow the camera to stay more compact, and if you need more batteries, you can get a grip for this, which you can rock dual batteries in that. This camera is awesome, and it's probably a camera I should own, but probably never will because I'm cheap. But it combines amazing image quality, awesome dynamic range and resolution, and it's a huge improvement when it comes to autofocus compared to the previous GFX 100. And I think that if you're in the world of professional commercial photography and you need all that resolution, you can't really go wrong with this camera, especially when you compare it to more expensive medium format cameras like Phase 1 or Hasselblad. It does come with a hefty price tag still though. It's not that cheap, even though it is cheaper than the competition. $7,500 US or $10,124 Canadian just for the body. But this is a money-making camera, so maybe that doesn't seem that expensive if you're going to be using this to make money. But that's going to do it for this one. As always, if you found this review helpful and you're thinking about picking one of these cameras up, make sure to check the link in the description. If you like it, give it a thumbs up. If you dislike this video, give it a thumbs down twice. Don't forget to hit that notification bell. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Done. Hopefully it didn't overheat. Do we even see an overheating light? We've been recording for 20 minutes. And it's still good.